People always said that CEO Patrick Blackwood was a man who abstained from female company. 5 years into our marriage, he brought home a pregnant woman. Since you can't have children anyway, Lucy is carrying the Blackwood heir. On our wedding night, he had gotten drunk and mistaken me for Lucy Bell, collapsing onto me while whispering her name. Even though nothing actually happened between us, he still forced me to drink several bowls of abortifacients afterward. Then, Patrick suddenly noticed I became compliant. I stopped trying to appear before him to seek his affection. He praised me. "I'll get you a child eventually, but they won't be the Blackwood successor." I smiled, glancing at my prenatal ultrasound report. The Blackwood family whose child but mine could possibly be the heir. 2 minutes before Patrick brought Lucy Bell into the mansion, my mother-in-law was forcing a bowl of herbal tonic down my throat. "Scarlet, tell me, why is your stomach so useless?" 5 years married and not a single sign of pregnancy, but Patrick had never touched me. How could I possibly be pregnant? The Blackwood legacy is vast. We must have an heir, mustn't we? This can't be delayed any longer. If necessary, well, try IVF. IVF, that was a good idea. Actually, when Lucy walked through the door, my mother-in-law's expression instantly transformed. "Scarlet, dear, why don't you look after Lucy? Get a feel for what pregnancy is like. It will be helpful when you have your own." I looked at Patrick, but his eyes only held silent assent. "Lucy's hormones are volatile during pregnancy, so please be patient with her." Before I could reply, Patrick instructed Mrs. Davis, the housekeeper, clear out the guest room on the west side and convert it into a nursery. We slept in separate rooms, and he knew perfectly well that the west guest room was my room. Mrs. Davis paused, looking at me instinctively. I remained silent, my knuckles white. "Are you sure?" Patrick nodded. "Lucy will need rest after the baby is born. The nursery should be close to the master suite for convenience." Lucy let out a soft laugh, gently stroking her abdomen. Her tone was delicate. "Sister Scarlet won't mind, will she? Patrick says my baby is precious, so we'll rely on you for help looking after him." I knew that even if she weren't pregnant, Patrick would still coddle her like a treasure. The master suite contained a secret room. One day, while cleaning, I found the door ajar and peeked inside. The walls were plastered with photos of a woman, and Patrick was bent over something, murmuring devotedly. "Lucy." I panicked and made a noise. He roared at me. "Who allowed you in here? Get out." It was that day I finally understood why the supposedly chaste CEO had agreed to our arranged marriage. I bore a passing resemblance to Lucy Bell. Noticing my crestfallen expression, Patrick spoke blandly. "Lucy can't stand incense due to her pregnancy. This afternoon, you'll accompany me to the temple to pray for the unborn child." In the past, I often begged to go to the temple with him. After repeated refusals, he eventually let me go alone. This time, Patrick proactively invited me to join him, yet I couldn't feel any joy. As I bowed to the Buddha, the prayer beads on my wrist suddenly snapped, scattering the glass beads across the floor. I had acquired that incense-ash glass bracelet the first time I went to the temple with Patrick. It symbolized a happy marriage. "Buddha above, please let Patrick Blackwood marry me." At the time, he had only scoffed. "Those beads are useless. I will never marry you." During our engagement, everyone said I was the one who broke the CEO's vow of chastity, and I believed my long perseverance had finally paid off. I wore that bracelet for 5 years, believing sincere faith would lead to fulfillment. But this time, a flicker of concern appeared in his eyes. He even started helping me pick up the beads. "The thread must have loosened. I'll find someone to reinforce it for you." "There's no need." Patrick instantly dropped his kind fa. Ade and threw the remaining beads back onto the floor. "You are truly insincere. You don't want the beads, so don't dare blame me later." I picked up the beads he had dropped, wrapped them in a handkerchief, and buried them beneath a tree in the courtyard. "Buddha above, please let my karmic connection with Patrick Blackwood end here." In the car ride home, I waited a long time for Patrick, who finally appeared holding 2 red safety talismans. I knew one was for Lucy and the other for her child. Years ago, I had begged for similar talismans for him, but he scorned them and immediately gave them to his driver. The driver still had that talisman hanging conspicuously in the car. Back at the house, Mrs. Davis had already moved most of my belongings into the utility room. While organizing my items, I noticed one thing was missing: the photo of Patrick and me in our wedding attire. Soon, I heard Patrick's voice outside the room. "Mrs. Davis, you don't need to move that photo." I walked out of the room to face him. "Lucy is here. If you hang that up, she'll be upset." I looked at the photo. He stood beside me, his expression as aloof as a bystander, just as he was today. Even though he knew Lucy would likely never step foot in the utility room, He wouldn't allow me even that small keepsake. Mrs. Davis collected the framed photo and asked if I wanted to keep it. I shook my head. Why keep it? A thing he never looked at. What use was it to me? My mother-in-law called from downstairs. Scarlet, Lucy is hungry. Make something young people like, but remember to use little oil. She gets nauseous easily. Patrick nodded to me. Go quickly. Don't keep Lucy waiting. I went into the kitchen and made shrimp and vegetable risotto. The internet said it was good for pregnant women. When I carried the bowl upstairs, Lucy was lying in bed scrolling on her phone. Patrick sat beside her, his long fingers gently massaging her ankle. I had never seen that tender expression directed at me. I stood in the doorway, holding the bowl for 10 minutes, yet he didn't spare me a glance. Even though I had decided to give up on Patrick, my eyes couldn't help but well up. Lucy smiled at me. Sister Scarlet, you're so kind. I was just craving some risotto. Patrick looked at her, his voice soft. Tell her what you want, and let her make it. Don't hold back. I was Patrick's legal wife, yet I felt more like hired help. I didn't want to see their affectionate display, so I set the bowl down and turned to leave. Before I reached the door, Patrick suddenly stopped me. Wait. My heart skipped a beat, thinking he might show a flicker of kindness. Instead, he demanded, his voice icy. Lucy is allergic to seafood. Why did you put shrimp in this? Were you trying to poison the baby in her stomach? I didn't know she was allergic to shrimp. Sister, I asked Mrs. Davis to tell you just now. Did you forget? Lucy asked innocently, instinctively covering her belly. Patrick roared at me. Scarlet Vance, how dare you lie? He called Mrs. Davis up for a confrontation. Mrs. Davis instantly swore that she had informed me and even posted Lucy's preferences and allergies in the kitchen. I tried to explain, but Patrick dragged me to the kitchen. Indeed, there was a sticky note with Lucy's dietary restrictions, posted sometime recently. He was furious, slapping me so hard I fell to the floor. Scarlet Vance, don't accuse me of wronging you. The moment the slap landed, my head rang, and my heart seized up. Patrick had always been reserved, and despite his coldness to me, he had never laid a hand on me in 5 years. A burning sting spread across my cheek. I trembled, hands braced against the cold tile floor. Patrick looked down at me, his eyes full of brutality. You can't have children yourself, so you try to harm Lucy's baby. My mother-in-law rushed into the kitchen, having heard the commotion. Patrick, why are you hitting Scarlet? Patrick shouted angrily. Why? Look at the wife you raised. My mother-in-law bent to help me up. How did Scarlet anger you? Is it worth such a tantrum? Patrick sneered, violently tearing the note off the cabinet and throwing it at my face. See for yourself. Was she doing this on purpose? Lucy is allergic to seafood, yet she makes shrimp risotto. If anything happened to Lucy, where would you get your grandson? Mid-pull, my mother-in-law let go of my hand, and I crashed heavily back down. Scarlet, even if your child eventually becomes the Blackwood heir, why can't you tolerate one extra baby? I struggled to speak, my throat tight. I truly didn't know. Patrick kicked me again. Stop lying. Mrs. Davis said she posted the note days ago. You just chose not to look. My mother-in-law's eyes were full of disgust. I trust Mrs. Davis. She wouldn't lie. Are you jealous because you can't get pregnant yourself and can't stand to see others carry successfully? Over the past few years, I had taken medicine, endured injections, visited traditional and modern doctors, and cooperated with every test. I went to 3 different hospitals and showed them urgent reports proving I was physically fine, but my mother-in-law never believed me. She didn't know that Patrick had never touched me. Since they wouldn't believe me, I no longer needed to cover for him. I looked at Patrick. Why don't you admit that you have never once touched me? Patrick's expression froze, but he just stared at me, silent and cold. My mother-in-law blinked, then sneered. Scarlet, don't talk nonsense. Don't you two sleep in the same room every few weeks? 5 years, how could nothing have happened? She was right. To placate her demands for a grandchild, Patrick did sleep in the same room every 10th day. In the beginning, I tried various ways to seduce him, but he just looked at me coldly. Scarlet Vance, don't make me despise you. Later, I got used to it. The moment he entered the room, I would automatically lay out a sleeping bag on the floor. I covered for him for 5 years, consuming countless ineffective medicines, yet now he wouldn't even admit the truth. Perhaps the shouting was too loud, because Lucy came downstairs. Patrick, what's all the fighting? Patrick's expression instantly turned worried. He rushed forward to steady her. Why did you come down? Didn't I tell you to stay in bed? His tone was so gentle it could melt butter, a complete contrast to the aggression had shown me. Lucy blinked, looking fragile and harmless. I heard you fighting so fiercely upstairs. I was worried you would get overly stressed. But, Sister Scarlet probably didn't mean it. Patrick soothed her, gently wrapping his arm around her shoulder. Don't worry about this mess. I'll handle it. Get on your knees and reflect properly. His solution was to punish me by making me kneel in the kitchen all night. Mrs. Davis came halfway through to bring me food, full of guilt. Madam, I couldn't help it. If I made a mistake at a time like this, I'd be fired. My daughter is severely ill. I waved her off. It was fine. Patrick and his family claimed I couldn't conceive. Then I would prove them wrong. I booked an appointment at the city's best fertility clinic, preparing for IVF. If one wasn't enough, I'd have two. The next morning, Mrs. Davis woke me up. Madam, wake up quickly. Mr. Blackwood and Miss Lucy have gone out. They were gone. This was my chance. As I was about to leave, my mother-in-law blocked me. Scarlet, where are you going? Mom, I was wrong yesterday. I booked an appointment at the city's best fertility clinic today. I'm going for another checkup. I promised to deliver 2 grandsons for you next year. I was completely bundled up, hat, sunglasses, mask, terrified of anyone recognizing me as Mrs. Blackwood. After all, what I was about to do was secretive. But the moment I entered the hospital, I saw Patrick walking out with Lucy. I immediately turned to hide, but he spotted me instantly. Scarlet Vance, Lucy taunted. It's Sister Scarlet. Are you here for your infertility problem? Patrick looked disgusted. You can visit 100 times. I still won't have children with you. Too annoyed to deal with him, I turned to leave, but he grabbed my arm. Why are you so covered up? I casually fabricated an excuse. My face was bruised from your slap yesterday. Can't let people know the CEO hits his wife, can I? Patrick froze, realizing he might have used too much force yesterday. That was just a lesson for you. Don't let it happen again. I assured him I wouldn't, watched them leave, and walked straight into my scheduled appointment. The doctor confirmed I was healthy and eligible for IVF. She handed me a catalog, allowing me to choose my preferred male cell sample. I immediately recognized a familiar face in the catalog. I'll take him. But leaving the clinic, I found Patrick's car parked conspicuously at the entrance. He rolled down the window. Get in. I vehemently declined. Riding with them would only lead to more trouble, but Patrick's expression hardened. I said, get in. Once inside, he hesitated for a few seconds before speaking. Lucy's child will be registered under my name. I knew he was telling me to accept the child as a Blackwood heir, but I nodded enthusiastically. Of course, how could a Blackwood child be registered under anyone else's name? He was momentarily stunned, seemingly surprised by my reaction, but finally just said, just make sure you understand. Over the next 2 months, I complied with Patrick and Lucy in everything, showing no sign of hostility. Patrick believed I had completely changed after the last incident, and his attitude softened toward me. I made frequent visits to the hospital, and my mother-in-law praised my seriousness, sure I would succeed in my preparation for pregnancy. However, I no longer ran to Patrick's room voluntarily. I only remembered the 10th day appointment when he reminded me. One day, he actually insisted I sleep on the bed. You don't need to play hard to get. I wronged you because of Lucy's pregnancy. If you truly want a child, I can give you one. I was already pregnant with someone else's twins via IVF. If he touched me, what if he harmed my babies? But I couldn't sleep on the floor and risk catching a cold. If you feel guilty, you sleep on the floor. Patrick actually laid out a sleeping bag on the floor. Once the embryos were stable, Lucy started showing, and I immediately bought a ticket to Anthea, vanishing instantly. Before leaving, I leaked explosive news to major media outlets. Scarlet Vance, Patrick Blackwood's wife, was 3 months pregnant with twins. The Blackwood Group was about to welcome its new future heirs. The news was explosive. The legitimate Mrs. Blackwood is pregnant with twins. Weren't there rumors she was infertile? How did she jump straight to twins? Major media scrambled for coverage. The Blackwood Group stock even saw a slight fluctuation. Patrick, accompanying Lucy to a prenatal checkup, received a frantic call from his mother. Patrick, why didn't you tell me Scarlet was pregnant? I wouldn't have known about the twins if the media hadn't reported it. Bring her home immediately. This great news demands a celebration. Patrick immediately called my number, but it was switched off. Lucy, too, was becoming unstable. Patrick, she won't steal my baby's position, will she? She sobbed, subconsciously covering her belly. I'm the one you love. You can't let her take everything that belongs to me. Patrick's eyes were dark as he soothed her. She won't. You are the most important person to me. But back in his office, he slammed his fist on the table furiously. Check. Immediately check her travel records and all her bank transactions. The secretary timidly offered a document. Mr. Blackwood, this is a letter Madam left for you. The letter contained just a few lines. Patrick Blackwood, perhaps we were never truly started. That day at the temple, I asked the Buddha to end this unfortunate fate, and my wish has now been granted. I will return when the children are born. Not for you, but for the Blackwood inheritance. Patrick suddenly remembered. When I married him with a huge inheritance, the Blackwood family promised my child would be the successor. In the 5 years since, despite my devotion, he had never touched me and even welcomed Lucy into our home. He realized he might have been wrong about this. He thought he had complete control over me. Yet this time, I left without a trace. He felt no anger about me carrying another man's child. He only desperately needed to know where I was. Meanwhile, Scarlet Vance sat on the flight to Anthea, wearing sunglasses, her expression calm, a slight, mocking smile playing on her lips. Anthea, the small southern country, had a mild climate and friendly people, far from the Blackwood sphere of influence. It was a location she had carefully chosen. She rented a 3-story villa away from the city noise. Her days consisted of eating, sleeping, listening to prenatal education, walking, and checkups. The twins were developing quickly. Her belly swelled visibly. "Ma'am, your nutritious meal has arrived." She sat by the sunlit window, gently rubbing her stomach, her eyes filled with cold resolve. She wasn't in a hurry to return. It was too soon. She needed to wait until Lucy's baby was born, until the Blackwood family dropped their guard, and until the media buzz died down. Then, she would return with her children, taking her rightful place with dignity. After all, the father of the children in her womb shared the exact same genetics as Patrick Blackwood. The Blackwood heir could only be her child. At 3 a.m., only the top floor of the Blackwood Corporation tower was lit. Patrick sat in the CEO's office, files strewn across the desk, his eyes bloodshot. Why did she suddenly get pregnant? He demanded of his assistant, his voice strained. What procedure did she have done at that hospital? The assistant looked troubled. "We can't find her personal records. She always registered anonymously. And, she didn't conceive naturally." "Not naturally." Patrick shot up. "What do you mean?" "IVF, Mr. Blackwood." The office fell into a dead silence. After a long moment, he clenched his jaw and sneered. "So, she never intended to have my child, did she?" Yet, a nagging thought persisted. Scarlet had been obsessed with him. How could she carry another man's child? The babies must be his. Conceived through some special means she used. Just then, the rosary beads in Patrick's hand snapped, scattering beads big and small. He vaguely recalled Scarlet helping him string them, saying she used strong thread that would last forever. At the time, he only roared, "Who told you to touch my things?" But now that the beads broke, he felt a corresponding tear in his own chest. "Go dig up the cloth packet under that tree behind the temple, Mr. Blackwood." "What cloth packet?" Patrick suddenly remembered that temple visit was with Scarlet alone. He stood up abruptly, his eyes cold. "Drive to the temple, Mr. Blackwood, now." The assistant looked confused. "I'll go myself." At 5 a.m., before the temple opened, Patrick was already standing before the old locust tree. He stripped off his suit jacket and knelt, digging in the dirt. His knuckles were quickly scraped raw by stones, blood dripping into the soil. Finally, he felt a cloth packet, stained with ash and earth. He paused, carefully bringing it out and opening it. Inside were the worn glass prayer beads and a piece of paper with familiar handwriting. The beads were dull and lifeless. The note read, "Buddha above, please let my karmic connection with Patrick Blackwood end here." He stared blankly at the words, his fingers tightening inch by inch, until he violently punched the tree root with a dull thud. He whispered, "Scarlet Vance, are you truly so determined to cut ties with me?" "I'm telling you, over my dead body." He abruptly looked up at his assistant. "Find out which doctor performed her IVF. Start investigating everyone she's been in contact with. She can run for a while, but she can't hide forever." The next second, his phone vibrated. He glanced down. It was Lucy. He ignored it, but the phone rang again relentlessly. On the other end, Lucy's voice was normal. "Patrick, I woke up from a nightmare and realized you still weren't home." Patrick closed his eyes, realizing he hadn't slept all night. "I'm working overtime. When will you be back?" In the past, Lucy was his safe haven, his ideal woman. He used to dream of having her, but now, her voice only irritated him. He suddenly missed Scarlet Vance, the woman who waited up for him no matter how late he was. Scarlet never complained, she just waited. "My babies grew quickly in my belly, free from the Blackwoods. Life was comfortable and peaceful. Here, No one knew I was Mrs. Blackwood, and no one mentioned the family. One day, I was sitting by the window sunbathing, a cup of warm milk beside me. Suddenly, a knock came at the villa door. "Miss Vance, this is your delivery." A delivery man politely handed me an envelope. I recognized the stationery instantly. It was from the law firm I had contacted privately, but the next second, my fingers froze. The envelope contained a copy of the approval documents for the Blackwood Group to establish a subsidiary in Anthea. "Patrick Blackwood, you were faster than I thought. I hadn't imagined he would actually chase me here." At the same time, Patrick stood on the balcony of the tallest business hotel in Anthea's city center, looking out over the foreign architecture. "Where is her villa?" "In the southern suburbs. The environment is extremely quiet, and access is strictly controlled, but we've locked down her movements." Patrick nodded, his eyes betraying a restrained eagerness. "Don't rush to contact her. Arrange a convenient coincidence, like the supermarket she frequents, the prenatal clinic, or," he paused, "the beach she likes to visit." He remembered her saying that if she were pregnant, she'd want him to take her to the beach to listen to the waves. The next morning, I went to the beachside prenatal clinic for a checkup with my nurse. As soon as I walked in, Patrick sat down in the waiting area, separated by a crowd. He spotted me immediately. He watched her smiling and discussing baby supplies with the doctor, her eyes sparkling. She looked more radiant than ever before, but her eyes held no sign of him. He was about to walk toward her when a figure emerged from the consulting room door. It was a man, around 30, wearing a white coat, holding a fetal heart monitoring report. "Scarlet, here are your report results." I reviewed them. "The twins are stable. You're taking excellent care of yourself, Scarlet." That intimate address pierced Patrick's composure. He had never used such a familiar nickname for me. I gently took the report, my voice soft. "Thank you, Liam. Thank you for taking care of me these past months." Patrick stood frozen, only one frantic thought in his mind. Who is he? Could the children be his? At the clinic entrance, Patrick finally forced himself to approach. "Scarlet Vance." I turned, and the smile vanished the moment I saw him. Liam frowned slightly. "And you are?" Patrick ignored him, his gaze locked on my face. "Can I talk to you?" I shook my head, my tone calm but detached. "Mr. Blackwood, there's nothing left for us to discuss. You want to know whose children I'm carrying, don't you?" I looked down, gently rubbing my belly, my lips curling faintly. "You can guess all you want, but you'll never know." Meanwhile, back in the States, Lucy Bell hung up the phone, her face as white as a sheet. "You said Patrick personally flew to Anthea." Her body swayed. She sat down, clutching her belly, her gentle fa crumbling instantly. "He promised to go to my prenatal checkup with me. How could he abandon me and the baby for Scarlet Vance? Is that woman's pregnancy so important? I'm carrying a Blackwood baby too. Get reporters ready. I'm going to give an interview personally. I want everyone to know that the only true Blackwood child is the one in my belly." Her voice was sharp, finally discarding her fragile disguise. "Also, how did Scarlet get pregnant in the first place? Investigate. I want everyone to know that the children she's carrying are illegitimate." Back at the hotel, Patrick didn't sleep all night. His mind replayed the way that man called me Scarlet, and the look of ease and serenity in my eyes. It was a look I had never shown him. I had changed. The Scarlet who used to wait by the door for him, the one who secretly cried when he paid too much attention to Lucy. That woman was gone. The next morning, I went to the supermarket as usual. Turning around, I was abruptly met with Patrick's bloodshot eyes. "You certainly have free time," I said coolly. "Does Mr. Blackwood's white moonlight not need him for her pregnancy anymore?" He compressed his lips, wanting to explain, but finally said, "The children are mine, aren't they, Mr. Blackwood? You seem to forget that there was never any intimacy between us." His mouth twitched, his Adam's apple bobbed, and after a long moment, he said softly, "But we are legally married." I smiled faintly. "The day you brought Lucy home and announced she was carrying the Blackwood lineage. Do you remember what you said? You said I couldn't conceive, and the baby in her belly was the family's only hope." I looked at him, my eyes sharp with mockery. "Now you question whether the children are yours. Mr. Blackwood is far too greedy. You're lying." Patrick's reason suddenly snapped. "You had IVF, didn't you? Tell me which man it was. Whose seed is it? I don't believe you willingly conceived another man's children." He reached out to grab my wrist, but I violently yanked away. "Patrick Blackwood, you are truly laughable. You had no desire for me then, but now you question the parentage of my children." Suddenly, I felt something strike my head, my vision darkened, and I lost consciousness. When I awoke, my limbs were tied to a cold hospital bed. The air smelled faintly of alcohol. Only one person was in the room. He sat opposite me, Patrick Blackwood. I gritted my teeth. Are you insane? He stood up, his movements slow but utterly dominating, approaching my bed step by step. If you want, tell me whose children they are. I'll have to find out myself. He sneered. Don't worry, it's just amniocentesis. It won't hurt you or them. Patrick Blackwood. My pupils constricted, my voice nearly shattering. What right do you have to do this? I am your husband, he said softly. You can run, you can hide, you can use IVF with someone else, but don't ever think you can trick me into believing they aren't mine. I was shaking with rage. They are not your children. You think you can. The report is back. He threw a folder down beside my bed, still lying. Look for yourself. The document starkly read. Paternity comparison result. 99.999 match. You are carrying my children. I gasped, staring at the cold DNA report, my fingers turning icy. How could this be? I was carrying the children of Patrick's deceased twin brother. There was only one possibility. They were identical twins. This was even better. My children could rightfully claim the Blackwood inheritance. Patrick stared intently at me, his voice rough. You said there was never any intimacy between us. Then tell me, how did these two children come to be? I pursed my lips, unable to speak. Realizing this was a far better opportunity for revenge, I let out false tears. I just wanted children with a man I loved. Was I wrong? But Patrick pulled me into his embrace, whispering, Scarlet, I was wrong about everything before. You wanted children for so long. I should have given them to you sooner. You won't have to resort to such means again. He frowned slightly as he spoke. But Lucy's child, I need to legitimize him. Can we register her child under your name? Let's start over. I will be a good husband and a good father. I was silent in his arms for a moment, my hands clenching, then slowly relaxing. Then, I looked up at him, tears welling in my eyes, and gently nodded. Okay. He visibly flinched, almost disbelieving. What did you say? My voice was low. I'm tired. The babies will be here soon. I don't want to fight anymore. Let's just focus on bringing these two children safely into the world first, and then discuss everything else. All right. Patrick let out a huge breath of relief, gripping my hand excitedly. Yes, Scarlet, whatever you say. But this piece lasted only 10 minutes. His phone screen lit UPA call from the Blackwood PR director. Mr. Blackwood, you must call back now. We have a crisis domestically. Patrick's brow furrowed. He turned to the balcony to answer. What happened? I looked at him, my tone flat. He paused, then flipped his phone screen to show me. On the screen, Lucy Bell sat tearfully at a press conference, dressed in a white maternity dress, clutching her abdomen. She choked out, I never wanted to steal Sister Scarlet's position, but I am carrying Patrick Blackwood's child, too. I just want to give him a complete family. She's been gone so long, how can she be sure those twins belong to the Blackwoods? The media below erupted in chaos, captions continuously refreshing. White moonlight versus legitimate wife. The war escalates. Scarlet Vance's twins. Father unknown. I slowly put the phone down, smiling. Mr. Blackwood, you have a problem now. Patrick's face was ashen. She's insane, daring to speak publicly and say such things. Good thing I did the paternity test first. Scarlet, don't worry, I will speak out for you. 3 days later, back in the States, Patrick, dressed in a black suit, stood on the temporary press stage at the Blackwood Group headquarters, facing dozens of media outlets and countless flashing lights. Lucy sat in the front row, pale and weak, clutching her belly, looking innocent. Patrick took the microphone. Regarding Miss Lucy Bell's pregnancy, I confirm the child is mine. Lucy's eyes reddened with emotion, but Patrick immediately continued. However, I must state clearly, my marriage still stands. My lawful wife is Scarlet Vance. Lucy's eyes went dark. She desperately grabbed Patrick's arm, tearfully accusing him. Patrick, you promised me you'd give the baby in my belly a name. It was at this moment Patrick finally saw Lucy's true face. His former white moonlight was unrecognizable. He gently pushed her away. But you also said you were willing to have my child, didn't you? You said you didn't seek status, only to remain by my side. In the following months, Patrick truly changed. He cancelled all his schedules, spending every day taking me to prenatal checkups, buying baby supplies, and preparing nutritious meals. Even when my legs cramped at night, he personally massaged them. Scarlet, don't put pressure on your side when you sleep. I checked. It's bad for the babies. Scarlet, that brand of stroller isn't good enough. I ordered a custom model. It arrives tomorrow. He acted like a completely different person. Yet my heart grew increasingly cold and detached toward him. Even when Lucy's due date arrived, he didn't return home once. Liam Jones carried the two children out of the operating room, a boy and a girl, healthy and safe. Patrick held them, his eyes red, his voice trembling. Scarlet, thank you. 3 days later, we returned to the States. The airport arrival was live-streamed, watched by thousands. The Blackwood mansion gates opened for me, the red carpet extending to the marble staircase. My mother-in-law personally came out to greet me, saying, "Scarlet, you're finally home." Patrick announced overnight that my children were the Blackwood heirs. A few days later, Lucy's baby was gone entirely. She had delivered a premature baby boy, barely 5 pounds, who never even cried. She believed the child was her leverage, her last foothold in the Blackwood family. But the baby succumbed to a lung infection and died less than 3 months after birth. She blamed everything on me. "Scarlet Dancy, it was you. You stole Patrick. And now you stole my child." She went insane. She fled the hospital that night, hiding a fruit knife, her hair disheveled, her mind deranged. She forced her way into the Blackwood estate. I was in the courtyard, admiring the moon, holding my sleeping daughter. Lucy suddenly lunged out, her eyes maniacal, rushing straight toward me. I couldn't retreat in time. Patrick's voice exploded in the night. "Scarlet." He rushed out from behind me, instinctively and without hesitation, using his body to shield me from the blade. The knife pierced his chest, and blood splattered across my face. Weakly, he managed to turn his head, looking at the children in my arms, and whispered, "Scarlet, I'm glad you're safe. I'm glad they are safe." Lucy, realizing she had stabbed the wrong person, fled in terror. I desperately pressed against Patrick's chest, but the blood refused to stop flowing between my fingers. His breathing grew shallow, but his eyes never left mine. He even pulled out the old chain bracelet I had discarded years ago. "Scarlet, can we start over? Will you give me one chance?" My voice trembling. I slowly nodded, tears pouring down my face. "Yes, I can. I'll give you anything you want, since you're about to lose it all." He flinched. I leaned in, whispering the secret I had held for too long into his ear. "These 2 children are not yours. They belong to your brother, Evan Blackwood." Patrick's pupils violently constricted. He used his last breath to speak. "I see. I lost you long ago. 8 years ago." Both Blackwood brothers loved Lucy Bell, but a car accident caused Evan to lose his life, saving Patrick. From then on, Patrick became the cold CEO, and Lucy disappeared. Later, I accidentally found Evan's viable cells at the hospital. Perhaps it was fate. Patrick died in my arms, his heart burdened by a debt he could never repay. He had tried to use the future to atone for the past, forgetting that some mistakes, once committed, leave no path back. Not everyone waits where you left them.